Hey guys, I want to talk to you about grease guns. I had to get mine out to grease the front beam on Valerie, and I was wiping them off. They have a tendency to get pretty grungy, and I wanted to share a few things about the grease gun itself. I mean, I know today they got a lot of different lubricants. They've got pneumatic grease guns, electric grease guns, rechargeable cordless grease guns. They've got a lot of wonderful things, but there's still some dinosaurs like me that, I've been doing this for 40 years or 50 years and acquired this stuff along the way. I had my own business for a while. It was GZ Mechanical. Woo! Yeah. That was a short adventure, and no, I'm not going to ride the unicycle for you today. But I might sometime get back on that thing and give it a shot. So, anyhow, this is your typical bottom-of-the-line grease gun that you can probably buy at a lumberyard, hardware store, or a place that sells grease. And it is a POS. You know what that stands for. And the thing that's the matter with it, they'll work. You can get the air out of them and they'll work. But for some reason, just like this one right now, I wanted to demonstrate it and it ain't pumping. And it's like you get halfway through a job, your cartridge of grease empties out, and you put a fresh cartridge in there, and it's like, oh, how aggravating it is to get that thing working again. This just too much aggravation, and it's just low quality all along the line. The next one I want to show you here is these are both kind of like commercial grade. I want to maybe, it's not probably the top of the line, and of course these are hand operated, so nobody wants this stuff anymore except me. And these are both, they're different colors, and that way a serviceman like myself can keep track of what lubricant they've got and what. You put the red and the red. This is synthetic grease in this one, and it's got a nice little air bleed right here, and it works. And this one doesn't really have there it is, that little set screw right there. You're supposed to be able to screw it in and, discharge some of the air right there. And I find just starting the threads, catching the threads and maybe go a turn or turn and a half, don't tighten it all the way down, and then release the spring here on the end. And these are working good, so I don't want to mess with them, okay? I'm not gonna mess up a good thing here just to show you that. And of course they have them, if you have a stubborn piece of equipment and you can't seem to get the grease to go in with one hand, then they've got the lever action, which gives you a little bit more force, a little more pressure that you can use. And if you see these things at garage sales and swap meets and different things, flea markets, I mean, pick them up. I've had these things for years and they work great. Now this one I've got charged with Lubriplate, and that would be for a different type of an application. I did service and repair work half of my life, so I was in a service van and going on the fly different places. Sometimes it's just difficult. One of the features about all three of these grease zerks, and these work better than the cheapo one here, but if you'll notice, the ends of these things turn, see? They turn back and forth. And if you sometimes want to put grease into a zerk on a piece of equipment, the hose keeps popping off. You've got some old hard grease in there or something. Maybe it's cold outside. And that's the idea of this. You loosen this up, you put it over the zerk, and then you tighten this thing down, and it'll stay on there. If you need two hands to operate the gun or squeeze the trigger, it will stay on. And sometimes you got these stubborn situations. And all three of these have that same one. You can see where it's split. And this one is, even the cheap one has got it. Now, the more you pay, the better it's going to work. Now, here's something that I saw one day at a supply house, and I bought this totally on impulse. It says, Zerkmate Grease Fitting Joint Cleaner. It's like, whoa, what is this? And what it is, you've got your Zerk attachment on the end, and then you've got the plunger, and you might want to unscrew that, and you charge this with grease. It is probably, I wouldn't be surprised. Has it got threads in there? No. You'd have to hold it up to something or whatever. I've never used it. I bought it strictly on impulse. And so you get it charged, and it's got that O-ring in there. And you would set this on the Zerk, say on top of a motor or something, and you hammer it. Everybody likes to hammer something. Fix something with a hammer, right? And sometimes you've just got a stubborn passage or Zerk. And I thought that was just, I loved it. It was well made. It's out of brass, comes in a nice little box. I've had this thing for, oh, I can't even tell you how long I've had this thing. Since the early 80s, maybe? I don't know. And I never used it. So I don't even know how to work. There's a lot. That's a lot to cover. I don't even know how to work it. I had to search for this thing because it's like it was buried in some stuff because I never needed it. But I kind of just went back on a little journey of my own, and I thought I'd share that with you. And it seemed like there might be some other points too. A lot of times, if you do have a bad Zerk, they are threaded. Very seldom do you see one that's pressed in, but most of the times they're threaded, and most of the time there's more than one Zerk. And you just unscrew the one next to it and move it over, and then get another Zerk when you feel like it, or it's like let the next guy worry about it, you know. Well, technology's come so far. You've got the Zerks on the beam, and I remember the car I learned to drive in was a 1952 Ford. The hell was it? Wasn't a Fairlane. Custom something or another. POS, and it was used when my dad bought it. But I'm not kidding you. You would get underneath that thing, and there was grease Zerks everywhere. You know, you grease the tie rod ends. Yeah, there's 4 Zerks right there. The upper and lower ball joints. The shackles on the leaf springs in the back. I mean, there was just, you know, they put them up on a lift. Back in those days, cars needed maintenance, and you saw a gas station on every corner. It was typical. You know, there might be 3 gas stations at one intersection, then they'd have signs out, mechanic on duty. Then they didn't just pump gas, you know. And when you pulled in, there was a self-service pump island, and then there was the full-service pump island. Guys would come, you drive in, and they had hoses laying out at the full-service one. And when you drove over those hoses, it rang a bell inside the gas station. Ding, 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 ding. And these guys would come running out, and they always had a nice little mechanic's uniform on, and maybe a hat, you know, and said Conoco or whatever the brand was, Mobile, or and they'd come out and they'd put the gas hose. They'd start filling your car with gas. Ask you, they'd come over the window. You didn't even have to get out of your car. They just come over the window, and they'd say, you know, fill her up. And they'd say, yeah, what kind of gas do you want? Or you'd say, put $5 in. Or if you really want to piss them off, go to the full service station and only ask for $2. Of course, when gas is 37 cents a gallon, that ain't so bad, you know. So at any rate, they would, while it was filling up with gas, they'd go around and smear an oily rag all over your windows. My dad used to get so ticked off at that. Sunday morning, you know, he'd want to top off the tank on the nice car, and they'd smear up the windows, and they'd lift the hood. You didn't have to pop the hood from the inside. They did it from the outside, and they would check the oil, and if it was low on oil, they'd bring the dipstick over to you and say, looks like you're low on oil today, sir. Would you like me to add a quart? And sometimes they'd take the caps off of your battery. They would, if you ask them, and sometimes they had a tire air pressure deal in their shirt, and they would take it out and they would check the air pressure, the tire pressure in your car. Looks like you're a little low, Mr. Zupon. Would you like to have me fill it up? And my dad said, you know, yeah, but I don't want you putting 35 pounds in it. I want 32, you know, and use my gauge. He was a picky old grumpy bastard, just like me. So anyhow, thanks for going down memory lane with me, and this is a fun day, and I got my electric impact wrench out today, guys. I have a pneumatic one, but I don't want to start the compressor up and just for putting on one tire. And I also have this old Black & Decker electric one that works just fine, but I hardly ever use impact tools, and man, they've got some nice ones, but even if I was to get a cordless one, I'd probably, the battery would fail before I ever got any decent use out of it. And when I was doing service and repair work, cordless tools were a Makita. I had my Makita for nut driver, for tech screws on sheet metal and putting in water heaters, the flue and everything. So anyhow, I don't know what these dogs are barking about, but I think I've taken enough of your time. But it was fun for me. Hope it was for you. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subbing. TheEZGZ out.